Good evening. Welcome back to DragonCon. Are we glad to be here or what? Yeah. Some of us were here last year. How many people were here last year? Okay, you're the faithful. Thank you. We appreciate that.
I was here locally.
That's true. That's true. How many people came to this particular panel, competition, whatever you want to call it, last year? Okay, well, Gail was the one who couldn't come, but I had recorded the video with her, asking her the questions, so that I played them back, but yeah. But thank you for coming and spending your Thursday night with us. And I gotta tell you, this is the first panel of the 10th year of the Urban Fantasy Track. So you guys are, you know, our first people of this particular year. So thank you for being here. So what we're going to do tonight is that everybody on this panel, and yes, that includes me, and you'll find out why in a little bit, couldn't get anybody to sign up for the particular season. So I thought, okay, that's a challenge. Challenge accepted. So, and what's that?
I said, I know what season, but I love that season. I'm like one of the minority that love that season.
Well, how many people, I know there's one person in the audience, but anybody else here watch any of our Supernatural Rewind panels via YouTube? That we did the season by season. All 15 of them are on there if you ever want to go to YouTube and look at them. And most of the people on this panel were on all of them. We've got 3 of the people, Beth and Gail and Marx were actually on all of them. So anyway, yeah, it was a little bit, it was interesting when watching it again. But the way this is going to work tonight is that I have the specific areas that each of us are going to focus on in defense of our season. And we're going to take about 5 minutes, and I have a watch, a big ass watch too. See? People back there could probably tell me what time it is. Okay. So we're going to take about 5 minutes to make our defense. Then we're going to have, you know, conversation. You guys get to have your input, say what you think. You can tell us we're nuts. Please do it nicely, but you know, we'll have a rapport. Then afterwards, you guys are going to choose who made the best defense. It might not be your favorite season, but who do you think did the best job defending their season? Okay? That's the way it works. So,
at what point does Osiris come in and tell us whether or not, you know, our feather weighs?
he will always be here. Okay? Just remember that. Always sitting on your shoulder, whether you want him to be or not. But first thing we'll do is I'm going to have quickly each one of my folks introduce themselves, but we'll start at that end with Marx.
Hey, I'm Marx Pyle. I'm a podcaster, filmmaker, and author. I have an anthology called Dragons of a Different Tale that's out that I co-directed, co-edited, and also Urban Fantasy series called Obsidian Monsters. I've been a fan of Supernatural since the very beginning.
I'm Gail Z. Martin and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance, but all my modern worlds are ones where Sam and Dee walk in and feel right at home. I'm one of the con runners for the continual online convention. We do a weekly Supernatural panel, and Beth and Carol and Marx have all been on that, and I'm already pitching Hanako. I am a staff writer for the Winchester Family Business blog, and afterwards come up, we have a Kickstarter going for 4 anthologies with Zombies Need Brains, and you can pledge right from the QR code.
Oh, that's good. We're high tech. Okay. Well, since we're going down the line, hi, I'm Carol Malcolm. I'm the director of the Urban Fantasy Track. Thank you. And so yeah, that's me. How many of you have never been to this track before at DragonCon? Okay, well, we've got some newbies. Thank you for coming.
Welcome, yeah.
We appreciate it. All right, and I will defer to my left.
I'm Beth Dolger. I write paranormal fiction and nonfiction. My current series is the Eternal Rest Bed and Breakfast Paranormal Cozy Mysteries, Book 6. Group's Welcome just debuted today, so I'm
Yay.
celebrating after the panel. And I've got a few stickers and bookmarks up here, so after the panel, if anybody wants one, feel free to come help yourself.
Okay, and I am Hanako. I am the creator and host of the Phantom Hybrid podcast. We have discussions about a lot of TV shows, films, books, in the genre, media and fantasy, supernatural. So we talk a lot about a lot of TV.
And now that we've all introduced ourselves, I want to talk about you, Carol.
Oh,
So you guys know DragonCon was virtual in 2020, and since that time, Carol has been producing virtual content for the Urban Fantasy track. And it's an incredible amount of work that she's been doing to keep all of us entertained. And I know that for not just me, but other supernatural virtual panelists, having those panels to look forward to every month was a really, I'm gonna cry. It really been a lot, and really kind of a scary, lonely time to have that to look forward to every month. And for those of you who did watch our Supernatural Rewind, you know that whenever somebody mentioned Crowley, it summoned him in the form of his little Funko Pop.
which I thought about bringing, but yeah.
Who needs Crowley when you have your very own Carol? So Carol, on behalf of all of your virtual Supernatural panelists over the past 2 years, we want to say thank you. We love you so much, and we want to present you with your very own Funko Pop.
It's really difficult to prove this, but I kind of feel speechless. I mean, I'm serious. That is awesome. You guys, thank you. That is amazing. I love her. Can I put her next to Crowley at home?
Yes.
She'll just sit there.
She's even got a little lanyard around her neck with her badge on.
Oh my God. And the thing I love, she's wearing a purple shirt.
Yes.
Okay, now that is not fair. You are going to make me cry. Thank you so much. That is awesome. And I will add.
You know you've made it when you have your own.
I know, seriously.
And it's collector number 15. For 15 seasons of Supernatural.
That is awesome. Well, and I gotta admit, I do have Sam and Dean also, but Crowley was the one that was my favorite to pull out and put on the screen because he had a little coffee cup. Anybody seen the Crowley? Does anybody else have that? It's darling. So anyway, thank
Now
you.
you can hang out with Crowley.
Now I can. Well, actually, I will be tomorrow too. But yeah, for a little while. How many of you are going to come to our Supernatural panels? Please say yes. Thank you. Okay, we'll see you there. Okay, so I'm going to put that right there since I don't have a name placard. You guys are too kind. Now, Beth, since you're doing season 6, you get to start.
Oh, I'm first.
Yeah.
Okay. And
You
guys
are
can hear me
first.
okay?
Yes.
All right. So Carol sent us a list of questions and different things to cover for each season, and I typed everything up like a kid doing homework. So
Well, you should have seen last year. Somebody had like 2 pages, and they were like, "What?"
mine's 3 pages. Anyway, so season 6, one of the reasons I went with 6 is because 10 wasn't available. Gail.
Somebody else grabbed it really soon. Yeah.
But I think season 6 is it's pivotal for Supernatural because it really is the beginning of the second phase of Supernatural because, originally Supernatural was planned to only be 5 seasons long. So season 6 was really, it was delving into new territory. It was setting the tone for what was going to come in those post 5 season episodes. And also, this is where we have seen the departure of Eric Kripke as the showrunner and Sarah Campbell coming on board. So I can't imagine what a monumental task that is to take the reins from somebody like Eric Kripke, especially with a show that has already had 5 seasons to establish itself and to get those kind of fans who, have a very set idea about what things ought to be like. And I don't think, there's not really one big bad in season 6. There's not that, there's no Leviathans, there's no... But we have a lot of great standalone episodes in season 6, which we're going to get into in just a minute. Misha Collins, this is his first season as a main cast member, so we get a lot more Castiel. And I think also season 6 does a really good job of beginning to lay that groundwork for this sort of expanded supernatural universe that we wind up getting into in later seasons. This is the season where Crowley becomes King of Hell, which I think we all love him in that role. And I think we also see a greater conflict between Sam and Dean, especially, when you consider that we open the season where Dean is living with Lisa and Ben and kind of has a decision to make whether he's going to be a hunter or he's going to, have the family life. So I think for me, when we get into favorite episodes, one of the things I really love about this season is we get a lot of Bobby. I adore Bobby. I know I'm not the only one who feels that way. And
We love Bobby.
we do. I mean, Weekend at Bobby's is not just one of my favorite episodes of season 6, but it is one of my favorite seasons at all. I mean, it's just a fun episode and a really fun insight into Bobby's life and the stuff that he has to put up with every day, especially from Sam and Dean. And we also have, and then there were none, episode 16, and I love the dynamic between Bobby and Rufus. Anytime the two of them were on screen together, I was happy. Right up until the point when Rufus dies. But, we're just not going to talk about that. That was upsetting. And then also, in episode 17, My Heart Will Go On, even though that's not a Bobby-centric episode by any means, we still get to see that alternate reality where he's married to Ellen and kind of living his happy little family life. And I think that's a lot of fun to sort of see that what could have been in that episode. And then also, there's a great deal of humor in episode 6. And I think maybe it's one of the more humorous seasons in all of Supernatural. We have, Live Free or Twi Hard, fabulous Twilight spoof. That I think, despite being, 12 years ago now, still holds up pretty well. Even though the Twilight fervor has kind of faded a little bit. Clap your hands if you believe. Dean microwaves a fairy that Major Tom plays in the background. Like that is TV show gold, you guys. It is so good. Also, the French Mistake. I think everybody agrees that is one of the funnest and funniest episodes of Supernatural across all 15 seasons. And going into it, kind of reading the description, it was like, is this gonna work? This sounds a little much, but they broke the fourth wall with finesse, and I think really pulled it off and made it just a delightful episode that is always a lot of fun to go back and watch again. Frontierland, which I think is funny because in it, Dean calls Sam Walker when he introduces him.
Yeah.
So at the time when it aired, that wasn't really that. It was a little bit of a joke, but now, looking back, it's like, oh yeah, that's really funny now. It's like a double joke this time, when we watch it now. And then I also, The Man Who Would Be King is one of the more serious episodes that I just think is really insightful into how Cass is dealing with everything that's going on and how he is changing. Unfortunately, I think he has one of the biggest, I say unfortunately because it doesn't go in a good direction for him. I think he has one of the biggest character arcs the entire season. We see him struggling with these things. We see him fighting with Raphael, trying to prevent the apocalypse, teaming up with Crowley, which whoever thought that was going to happen. And then we have the season finale where he's like, I'm God now. So I think we just see a huge amount of character development from him throughout season 6, even though, again, doesn't exactly go in a good direction for him. And I think, you talked about, Carol, what are the themes of each season? And I feel like season 6 is all about family, because we see Dean trying to live this normal family life, and we see Sam after he gets back from hell, going and hunting with Grandpa Campbell and his family. So he's trying to have this sort of family relationship with them, and ultimately, at the end of the day, their true family is Sam and Dean, and I would argue Bobby. I think he's the surrogate father that they always needed. So I think that family theme is just really, really strong throughout the entire season. And that's one of my favorite things about Supernatural overall, is that sense of found family, and that you can choose the people who are, gonna be there for you and that you wanna have in your life. So that's it. Vote season 6.
Don't forget, in Frontierland, Dean also becomes the sheriff, and now he is Sheriff Bo Arlen
Yes.
on Big Sky. So
Yes.
that was a
Yes.
prophetic episode.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how those things turn out? It's like, yeah, 15 years later. Okay. All right. Comments from the audience. What are your thoughts on season 6? I mean, what are some things right here?
My favorite part of season 6 is Balthazar.
Yeah,
He's a highly underrated character.
He's delightful.
Didn't have enough screen time.
Absolutely good.
Agreed.
Sebastian Roche is brilliant.
Okay, right next to you.
Out of the 5 seasons to choose from here, season 6 is my favorite. I think a lot of what they go into with Soulless Sam is very interesting, and especially looking back after later seasons when they show other Soulless characters, it's interesting to see the way that Sam took to it and what that says about Sam's character.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
I think we also got to see some really great acting by Jared in that season with that soulless character.
Yeah, he was spooky. And I think during our rewind panel, Gail had brought up that it was at some other con that when they were asked, the 2 actors were asked, well, which scene or which season bothered you the most, or which and Jensen had said that Soulless Sam, or which storyline, not the season, but the storyline, and he said Soulless Sam was the one that really got him, and so.
He just repeated that at Gisabella last weekend, and said that just really threw him off because they played off each other so much, and then he got a blank wall from Soulless Sam, and it really threw him off.
Right, okay. And we had some questions or comments over here, yes?
Even though, of course, they're crazy, the Campbells were an interesting twist because you got
Yeah.
the other side of
Yeah.
the family, and Grandpa Sam
Also Mitch Pileggi. I mean,
Right,
it's like,
right.
Chris,
How
I
can
was
you-
a huge X-Files fan before
oh yeah.
Supernatural, so it was nice to always see him.
Yes, right here.
Yeah, and a couple other things. One of the things I love about season 6 is one of my favorites as well. And as you say, it's very kind of pivotal. But one of the things I really thought was another theme as well besides family was, if you look at the title card, Shattering the Illusion there, it's a shattering illusion of Dean trying to live a normal life, and the illusion of Sam within being Sam with him. And also the shattering of trust with everything happened between them, Castiel, etc.
And also the shattering of the wall in Sam's mind. So yeah, you could
Yeah,
absolutely carry
that
that
was
theme. Great
that
point.
season is very pivotal in what the whole thing does. That's one of the hallmarks I always love about that. And minor quibble though, but Castiel was actually season 5. He was credited as being cast there for season, not season 6.
Oh, I thought it was 6 when he joined. Okay,
Nope,
good
season
catch.
5.
Yeah, right, poor guy.
Yeah, he was up in those 3, and then guest cast, etc., and then it was starting season 5.
And over here, we had some.
Yeah, I was just gonna point out that season 6 has one of the best, maybe a fan favorite episode, which is French Mistake.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
one you
yeah.
always go back to because it's just so much fun to watch.
And it's in one of the later seasons when, I think they're even talking to Chuck, and he says something like, well, I hate the meta episodes, and and both guys are like, yeah, we do too. And, meanwhile, the rest of us are like, but we love them, we love them. We have time for one more comment before we're gonna move on to the next one. Anybody else? Okay, so we're good for season 6. So, guess who gets to do season 7? Guess why I get to do season 7?
Everybody hates it but me. I listen.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. When I didn't have anybody to defend season 7, I said, I hate season 7. Or I really used to. I did initially, and there are some obvious reasons why. Probably the same reasons. There were 2 reasons why, which I will elucidate in just a moment. But I'm sure they're the same as they were for everybody else. But I thought, this might be a challenge, because for one thing, one of the reasons I hated the season so much were the Leviathans. I thought the Leviathans were really gross. I thought they were just kind of, it's not the same thing as being gory. They were just gross, you know, and it just didn't sit with me. But then I thought, you know, but if they're just gross and you hate them so much, that makes them a pretty good villain, you know. And if you're looking for a good villain for your season, that's pretty good, you know. Especially, they're not even very nice to each other. That whole bibbing thing was crazy. I like the way that they talked about it, or some of the Leviathans would mention it, and then they're like, oh no, now you don't make me do that. And we didn't really know what it was, and then when we find out what it was like, oh God, not this again. But in terms of Leviathan, Dick Roman, let's face it.
Yes.
He was so good. Such a good villain. Okay, so I disliked it so much for that reason. But again, as I said, it seems to me that if you're looking for, well, how do you define what's a good villain? They were pretty darn good. You know, they just wanted to basically eat everybody. You know, and you know, they didn't have like some kind of you know, it was a little bit different than the angels and the demons. It was, yeah, we just want to come here and live and just eat everybody. So we're going to go out and make this farm. And so it's kind of ridiculous, but at the same time, it's also kind of scary for us. So, and again, Dick Roman, good guy. I think that the season did have some really good things about it as well. Because it has Charlie. We get to see Charlie. We even see Garth for the first time. Now, prior to that, Garth was mentioned. You know, Bobby would talk about him, or you know, he's mentioned, but he doesn't. We don't actually see him until he shows up in the Time for a Wedding episode, which we got to admit was also pretty funny. So when you know, and Charlie. Who didn't love Charlie? If you didn't love Charlie, please don't tell me. Because but, you know, and of course, you know, we're devastated by what happens later, but for that, you know, for that particular season, for her to show up, it's like, oh, this is great. You know, and that was a good episode, you know, along with everything else. And it fit in with kind of, you know, the connections between what was going on with the Leviathans, but also, you know, how it incorporated with the guys. And I think we were talking recently about how Dean was trying to give Charlie when she's breaking in, and he's giving her the tips on how to flirt with a man. That was really she really had that guard going. So yeah, we've got Charlie. We get to meet Garth. So those are good things. Also, a standalone episode that I really enjoyed was seeing Charisma Carpenter and James Marsters again in the Dr. Phil episode. I thought that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the episode on its own anyway. I mean, it could have been good even with somebody else playing it. It was an interesting story. And it was kind of a standalone, even though, you know, something at the end ended up being something that turned up later on. But I think that it was just a fun one, and also if you're not a Buffy fan, don't tell me. Anyway, but to see them was just, I think, a lot of fun. Let's see. And we did have Crowley. Remember when Crowley tries to meet up with Dick Roman, and he's like, yeah, he thinks, you know, he sees the writing on the wall, and he thinks, well, we can't fight these guys. So he's like, hey, how about we team up? And Dick's like, yeah, no. We think that you guys are worse than humans, so we're, you know, if I had more time, I would, you know, I'd be getting rid of you, but I'm too busy, so I'm just going to do this. But it's like, okay, thanks a lot. So I enjoyed that. Oh, and they do get extra points for, in this particular season. One of the FBI agent names was Ian Anderson. So anytime there's a Jethro Tull reference, they get extra points for me. Now, why do I think that this was the best season? Well, we all know that that's not necessarily what I thought. but I did gain an appreciation of it when we did the rewind. Because when season 7, when it was first aired, is when I watched it. So I watched it like everybody else, an episode a week. But then when I watched it, you know, for the rewind, it was more like an episode a night. And I think the continuity of it kind of it made more sense, and it was just, you had a different feel for it when you got to watch it, you know, a little more closer together. But and I promise I didn't binge like a bunch of them in one night, but you know, one a night, and it's like, okay, well, and the other thing is there was that brief time where Sam gets all upset because he finds out about what happened to Amy, and so he leaves, which is, anybody who's ever been to any of the Supernatural panels on this track in the last 10 years knows that is one of my other pet peeves about the show is, come on guys, they just did it too much, where they would, well, I don't like you this week, so I'm going off to do my thing. I got tired of it. Anyway, and so, you know, when it's only a couple of days, or when it's only a couple of episodes, it's a little easier to take when you watch them closer together. Anyway, so that's my argument, is it had the best villains, and we got to meet 2 of the best new characters. What do you guys think? What are your reactions to season 7? Let's see somebody we didn't get before. Okay, yes, right here.
It's not one of my favorite seasons, but I think Dick was probably the best villain out of anyone.
He was great.
Obviously, like Charlie's.
And the thing is, that guy, I give him props because he went all in.
Oh, yeah.
He did not care how bad it made him
He
look,
just
how
played so
evil
well.
he sounded.
It was perfect.
Yeah, he really was.
He lived
Yeah.
up to his name.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and there was a sign that I made a note of in my notebook when I was watching it about it was a news article, the rise of Dick Wilmer. We get it, guys, we get it. Yes, right here.
So yeah, one of my favorite things about 7 is the dick jokes. Just all the dick jokes.
Yeah.
There were a number the whole season. The other thing that I really like is the Leviathan are true monsters, and we haven't had true monsters be the big bad in a long time. So even though they were quirky, but they're actually really scary, because they're true monsters who they don't care about each other, they don't care about humans, they don't care about demons, they don't care about anybody, they don't even care about themselves. So it's a lot of fun to watch true monsters be the big bad.
Oh, and one thing I forgot, we got to see Leviathan Dean and Leviathan Sam in there. Yeah, that was hilarious. Yeah, I mean, when he was like, well, I would rather have Chuckles than Schizo. You know, I said, oh my gosh, but that scene is great. Yes, right here.
So what you didn't mention about season 7, my favorite episode of season 7, actually one of my favorite episodes of the entire show, is the Born Again Identity, where Sam ends up in the mental hospital because Lucifer isn't letting him sleep, and then they find Castiel as Emmanuel with all of his memories lost, and he takes on Sam's visions. I think that was a really interesting episode. I really liked the kind of Lucifer messing with Sam and how it degrades his mental health so much, and even to his physical health.
Yeah, I think that Mark Hubbard, that was the most epic Lucifer moments was when he's just terrorizing Sam.
And he was Meg messing with them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And the fact that he came in different guises was also very disturbing. Yes.
And I guess looking at the Leviathans, especially after the reveal with Chuck in later seasons, and looking back, okay, the Leviathans were like the first thing he created, and you know, I was wondering when they went to Purgatory, and all the other monsters were like, oh god, Leviathans.
Right.
That was, you know, I wish they could have gone back and revisited after the big reveal about Chuck. So now you understand that monsters telling the hunters. Now you understand why we are the way we are. If the very first thing are like the Leviathans that Chuck created, you know, who you really fault us.
Good point. All right, we're gonna move on to season 8. I'm sorry. We'll go back to your comment if we have a little extra time. And that is Marx.
All right, so season 8. So this is kind of a new chapter for the show. They moved to Jeremy Carver as a showrunner. You might know later on goes into Doom Patrol as showrunner. And I really enjoyed like a lot of the Dean scenes with him, flashbacks to Purgatory. I thought they shot that really well. There's a lot of interesting things. The first new kind of dimension we've seen for a long time. And of course we get introduced to Benny, and he's a really awesome character. Yeah. So yeah, he's a great character. His relationship with Dean's great. He didn't stay with us as long as I would have liked, but we did learn a lot about him. We got into his origin, the vampire pirates, and you know, his girlfriend betrays him, and all that stuff. And he sacrifices himself at the end. I really like those arcs with Dean and him. I think Crowley also has a great arc in this too, because I think we get used to Crowley being like, because we know Crowley later, and he's just more of a frenemy than necessarily evil. But this season reminds us he's really, really evil. Kills Kevin's girlfriend, you know, threatens Kevin's mom, drives Kevin crazy. Really doesn't like Kevin. So, and it shows that he rules hell not just out pure raw power, but like an archangel can, but through you know, being really clever and smart and cold-hearted. So, but it also leads us to where, as the last trial, they try to give him his soul back, the brothers do. So that opens the door for us to finally get the Crowley, who can be a frenemy to Dean and the brothers. It gives us lots of great news stories. Because really, you know, you can only have a villain like that around for so long. They would have to kill him. So this is a great way to keep that character around and go in a new direction with Crowley. And we get lots of more showings of Crowley on our show.
Yes, yes.
But we also got introduced to Metatron, who either love or hate to love, I don't know. We also got Abaddon, who is very powerful and kind of opens up some new doors in the devil hierarchy mythology or whatever in Supernatural with the Knights of Hell, and to explore more, you know, in future seasons and other ranks. You know, I also love the finale with the fall of the angels. That was one of the most really cool, exciting moments in Supernatural visually, to see these angels fall and really open the door to like, what are they going to do next? What's going to happen? And it radically changes the power that heaven and the angels have on the show. You know, some episodes, there's a lot of great episodes. We all love Charlie, so we had LARP and the Real Girl, which gave us cosplay, the Braveheart moment that Dean had, right? We got Pac-Man Fever, with some video game looping going on, with Super Soldier Vampires. We got Freaks and Geeks with Teen Hunters, which actually I thought could have been a potential spin-off. I would have seen those three with Garth. As time goes by, expands, you know, the Men of Letters. We get to meet Henry Winchester, the grandfather. That's also where we get introduced to Abaddon. Actually right after that, Everybody Hates Hitler. We learn about the Thule Society, Judah Initiative, Adam and the Golem. You know, it really expands the world with these secret societies and stuff that we will explore, you know, throughout the rest of the show. We also get, they finally kill the Hellhound at this point. It isn't Dean.
Finally.
That's really Dean's kryptonite, I think. But Sam manages to kill it as part of the trials. We get, you know, I think Sacrifice was a really great episode, a powerful episode for some of their acting, especially for Mark Shepard. You know, we get the great episode with the psychic that's turning reality into cartoon. You know, that was an episode that's not only really funny, but I think had some really good character moments, really touching moments with that psychic character too.
One of the guys from Mac.
Oh yeah, he's a great actor. So you know we get Kevin Tran a lot. We get Charlie, Tiger Mommy,
Tiger Mommy.
Abaddon. You know, more with we get the demon trials, the trials, the heavenly trials that turn out to be fake. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to pull in some people. Like Mark Shepard recently at a Wizard World Comic Con was asked like one of his favorite seasons or moments, and he said it was the end of season 8 was the most fun we ever had. It was literally the best time for us, and he loved doing Sacrifice. And then Jensen Ackles recently in a podcast was asked, what was your favorite storyline of the series? He said, obviously besides the brothers, you know, which is throughout the whole series. He said he really loved the Purgatory storyline, flashbacks of Benny and Cass. He loved how they shot it. He wished they could have done more of it. It was great. So, that's my argument for season 8.
All right, very good. Comments? Yes.
It had some of like my favorite concept, and the pool was one of my favorite parts. And then like Benny's my favorite character in the whole show. So I was watching just those 3 or 4 episodes.
Just a side comment, Beth loves Benny.
We need a whole panel. Well, there's been a whole panel about Benny. I just wasn't on it because I wasn't here. We need another panel about Benny.
Yeah, that was one of Gail's virtual. Yeah, good guy. Anybody else? Season 8 comment? Okay, we will move on to season 9, and that is Hanako.
That is me, and I'm going to apologize to you first, Carol, because I think I was the last person to choose seasons, and you gave me between season 7 and season 9, and I was like, I don't want to touch that. Yeah, that's okay. So, I'm sorry. Season 9 is the season where we pick up with the angels falling from earth, and Dean having to make an impossible choice. At this point, we already know the brothers, even if they know it's not in their best interest, they're going to do whatever it is they have to do to save each other. And even at this point, when Dean is almost kind of, I don't want to say accepting of the fact that Sam could possibly die, he's trying to do everything he can to save his brother. And the last ditch effort is for him to take one of the fallen angels who is also dying, merge them two together in an effort to save his brother. And the way that he does this is such an underhanded way, but it's a way that he tries to give Sam a choice without giving him a choice. And you see throughout the whole season what that decision does to Dean. Because he doesn't like lying to Sam. And, you know, everyone has mentioned it. At this point, with the brothers, it's always some kind of conflict. You know, you have them together, you have them having each other back, and then all of a sudden there's something there that kind of pulls them apart. And we see that a lot in this season because Dean is having to keep this big secret from Sam. And he's trying to do it just so he can hold on to his brother. He doesn't want to be alone. And then we turn around later on in the season, we see that it flipped when Dean gets the mark of Cain and Sam is trying to save his brother, even though Dean is like, yo, leave me alone, I got this is what needs to happen. So with Dean and Sam, their character development through this season, it's one of those, it's a tug and pull type thing because you see them wanting to do the right thing, but you also see the same scenario happening over and over again. If it comes to the world and their brother, they're always going to choose their brother, you know, and we see the consequences of those decisions throughout the season. One of the other things I love about this season is we see Crowley in a different way because, as was mentioned, Crowley kind of sort of transitions from like this enemy to this kind of sort of frenemy, and then he's injected with human blood that tries to bring his soul back, and we see a more humane Crowley. We see someone who is struggling between being the king of hell, being the businessman that he has been, and also wanting to be a part of something, wanting to matter, wanting his feelings heard. It's a very funny transition, but it's a very real one that kind of, I think, especially with the way Mark Shepard plays it, you feel a lot more for Crowley. You can understand why he may have made some of the decisions that he's made, you know, throughout the series. But I think his character development through this season is also very, very fun to watch, because you get to see him try to still assert some dominance. He still wants to be king of hell. He still wants people to think he's important. And Abaddon is basically like, no, we're not paying you any attention. I'm the king now. You know, and you get to see him kind of struggle with that. The other thing about this season that I like is we continue to see how family is important to Dean and Sam. And also we get to see just how opposite the two brothers are. You know, with the discovery of the Men of the Letters bunker, Dean feels like he's finally found a place to call home, you know. And we see Dean in a very domestic way, you know, just even in the earlier episodes when the Wicked Witch of the West was in the bunker, she messed it up, and he's like, I just cleaned up in here.
Yeah.
Just seeing those little moments of Dean being domestic, because when he was with Lisa, we didn't really get to see that a lot. A lot of that happened off screen. And then to see Sam's completely opposite reaction to it, because Dean is like, why haven't you like fully moved in? Why is there nothing on your walls? Why haven't you made this home? And Sam is like, you have to remember what you had with our parents. I never had that. I don't have an attachment to this place because I've never had a place to call home. And you see how that kind of affects both of the brothers, because Dean really wants it to be a place for them. And then you see he brings Kevin in. They have Crowley there, even though Crowley's there, not necessarily by, you know, choice, but he's there. You get to see Charlie in their space, and you get to see a little bit more of Dean embracing this family that they've created, which we know doesn't always work out for the brothers, you know, when they let people in. But you see Dean start to let people in, and I love seeing the transformation with him and these people, and then how things kind of go left and how he deals with it. Because, you know, once he takes on the mark of Cain in an effort to try to kill Abaddon, things start going bad. They lose Kevin this season. They lose Charlie once, and she's brought back. So, and then also with Dean, we see Dean dying this season, which when I watched this, I was like, oh wait.
Like, why did I pick this
Like,
season?
were they warning us about things, especially knowing what happens to Charlie later on, what happens to Dean? I mean, Dean's death in this season was eerily familiar when you look at season 15. But, you know, and then of course at the end of the season, Dean becomes a demon because he's brought back by the mark of Cain and the first blade. So I think for me, just watching their dynamics through the season and how they relate to each other, how they approach things a lot differently, that was kind of important for me, because I think this season is where we start, I think it's one of the last seasons where we see Dean and Sam always headbutting and always going at each other. It's kind of like one of the seasons that starts going into these final 5 seasons where they're more in sync than they've ever been, you know, because they've learned, okay, we can't keep putting each other first. We can't keep doing this, because when we do, shit goes wrong, you know. And I think it also gets to a point where they start realizing we can't do this and allow other people to die for us, or to die to fix our mistakes. But yeah, as far as villains for this season, I think this is when we learn that angels really are dicks. And I mean,
It's not just a saying anymore.
it's not. But the other thing is, you also learn that some of them are not that way because that's what they want to be. They don't know any better. You know, imagine living your life in a particular way for an eon, and then you come down and you're expected to live amongst humans, these beings that you've always thumbed your nose at, these beings that you've always looked at as weak, and you don't understand them. Yeah, that's a lot of change for just a regular human. So imagine it for a celestial being who does not know how to interact with us, who does not know how to understand our emotions the way we think. So it was interesting seeing that as well, because you know the angels that you clearly are like, yeah, you need to die. And then there's others that you're kind of like, I don't know how to feel about you. The whole Ezekiel Gadriel thing is kind of like, I really wanted to like this Ezekiel in the beginning because you were saving Sam, but then you turned out to be like, just like everybody else, you're following orders. You're not thinking for yourself, but you're doing what other people are telling you to do. So watching all of that through these seasons and then knowing what comes later, that was very interesting for me, and it just kind of stuck with me because I was like, okay, this is something we have to hold on to because we see how it's going to affect everybody in the next 6 seasons.
Right, in the
after
coming
that.
up.
Yeah. Metatron, biggest dick ever. At this point, even much more than Chuck or anybody else, because he's just selfish. I mean, you get the things that you want by manipulation and by lying. And again, you're the messenger, you're the scribe of heaven. This is the turning point where we're like, okay, yeah, you know what? Maybe that's not as great as it sounds or as they've been telling us. But yeah, he was like horrible.
He does get some good speeches, though.
He does, but yeah, you caused a lot of issues for our people, and you're kind of indirectly also responsible for Kevin dying. So I had to.
That's true. You got to blame him for that. Comments on season 9? Yes, we missed you last a couple times ago. So go ahead.
I think it was actually an inspired casting choice for Tom Pennicott for Ezekiel, because if you're familiar with work about Galactica, you always see him as an honorable person. So if you see him as Ezekiel, you don't see that twist of him being material coming.
No.
So it was actually casting really helped in that regard, especially the genre fan.
Right.
And as much as I love season 6 and 8 are like my 2 favorites, you defend that season 9 pretty damn awesome.
Oh, thank you. Also I have to say my favorite episode, nothing will ever beat watching Dean fight with a pigeon.
That man will fight with anything. Yes, back here.
Yeah, I think season 9 probably delivers one of the greatest lines, not only in the whole all the seasons, but actually it's a great piece of writing, which is, you're good, but I'm crowded. That is one of the great lines. So
Yes. Yes, I will agree with you on that. Anybody else?
Oh, I was
Season
gonna
9
say,
comments?
The other thing about Crowley that I loved in this season is because when we're introduced to Crowley, of course he's the king of hell, so we automatically taught to think that he is such a bad guy. But one of the things that he reiterates time and time again in this season is that he is always a man of his word. And when you think about it, anything that Crowley has ever told the brothers before, he's never lied to them. Mm-hmm. He's always done exactly what he said he was going to do. Whether they listen to him or not is a totally different thing. But that's one of the things about Crowley that made him one of my favorite characters, especially in this season. Because even when he's talking to Dean's dead body, and he's telling him about the blade and about Cain, he was like, yeah, maybe I didn't tell you the full truth.
You didn't, yeah, that's
but
the
I
difference.
never lied to you. He said, it's important that you understand that. I've always kept my word. And I think that's so important. Yeah.
Well, that he cared, that, that's important to him.
And that was one of the things that also pissed him off about Abaddon, because she started voiding his contracts, and he was like, I'm a businessman, my word counts. Yeah. And you just negated all of that. And he was more pissed about that than anything. The fact that she made it so that his word, people always say a person's word is their bond. Yeah, and Crowley is one of those characters who sticks with that, even though he is technically a villain. He's probably one of the most honorable people on the show, because he always does exactly what he says. It may not be something that you like, but he never lies to you about it. He always does exactly what he says.
All right, Gail, take us home. Season 10.
There was a lot that I really liked about season 10, and I think it's important to remember that throughout the series, when Dean is without Sam, Dean is self-destructive. When Sam is without Dean, Sam burns down the world. So I think that one of the biggest things in season 10 is you see Sam's need for atonement and redemption after he believes he has let Dean down by not looking for him in purgatory. And Jared has said he didn't like the Amelia arc. I think all of us believe that my headcanon is that was meant to be a hallucination of Sam's. It was all very soft focus at the beginning, and then somewhere in there I think that, let's make this real. So I think it was supposed to be a hallucination. I'm sticking with it.
Yeah.
But I think Sam felt, Dean certainly let him know that Dean was disappointed in him. So this is an atonement and redemption arc for Sam, and he is not going to fail. If he has to trap somebody into selling their soul, no matter what he is going to do, he is going to save Dean and prove himself. And if he burns the world, well, he burns the world. Dean finds out that, he always said purgatory was pure because it was just anger and killing. Well, now he's got anger and killing, but it's not pure. And I think Dean kind of has to reckon with that. And he finally understands the allure of the power that pulled Sam in with the demon blood. Dean was kind of self-righteous about the whole demon blood thing. And now he's got his own version of that, and he can't beat it on his own. And I think that this leads to Dean having more empathy with what Sam has gone through, just like after in season 14 he gets possessed by Michael. He finally understands why Sam hated to be repossessed so often. And that
Yes.
this was what it really meant. And so there's a character growth there for both of them. As far as story arc, after season 10, the boys are much less often at odds with each other, which I personally really welcomed, because I hated the episodes when they were apart or at odds. And they work together better, they've grown. You actually get to see them grow into more adult perspectives, and they're no longer the 20-year-olds who are sniping at each other. There's really some maturation that we get to see, which is a wonderful thing in series TV. So often the characters are frozen, and we really get to see some growth there. And Sam accepts his hunting life. He has the whole conversation with Charlie about, I wasn't sure about this, but this is my life, and I love it, but I can't do it without my brother. And there's a huge piece there of settling into where you were meant to be. Villains, of course, Kane is one of those who he's a relatable villain. We pity him, but he's still, Knight of Hell. We see Rowena, and she's very much an enemy in this season. Of course, the Steins, who take Charlie away from us, are reprehensible human beings. And they got everything that was coming to them and more. That's still, that scene where Dean takes them all out is still one of the best fight scenes in the series. And we saw Magnus, who I thought was very interesting. And I want to know if they ever went back and cleaned out his secret lair with all the books and the artifacts and the relics.
That's been bugging her for years, I can tell you right now.
And what happened he had a zoo. What happened to those things? So, headcanon, they went back and cleaned out everything and took it all back to the bunker. Favorite episodes, Black. This is where Sam really doubles down on, I'm gonna get you back and I'm gonna fix you whether you wanna be fixed or not. Very Winchester thing to do. Fan fiction, the musical episode, the 200 episode. That is just packed with so many in-jokes. It's such a love letter to the fandom. I love the moment when Sam and Dean hear Carry On My Wayward Son, and for the first time realize how applicable it is to their lives. Just that dawning on their face. There's so much humor in that episode. You can't spell subtext without sex. It's just such a great episode. About a boy, we actually get to see Dean again de-aged. He could have stayed that way, and that would have solved the Mark of Cain problem in a different way. But to save Sam, he takes it back on and gets rid of the hex bag, and that was just a great Monster of the Week episode. The Werther box, I loved that was a rough episode. You have a lot of suicidal undertones in that, but Sam is still obviously wrestling with a lot of guilt and shame about things that have happened in the past, and Dean is able to snap out of his funk and save Sam, and well, who said that the blood had to come from one person? We're both legacies. And so here you have the brothers really working together. Dark Dynasty, not a favorite because I loved it, but we lost Charlie, and so you have to mention it because it was a pivotal episode. And then Brothers Keeper, because Dean finally overcomes all of the forces that he's been fighting. And of course, he saves Sam and kills Beth. And so that's just a brilliant episode. So I think that because the boys are now working in sync much better, because you also have these character growth moments, and because we're seeing a lot of self-awareness with the boys as they mature, that's my argument for season 10.
Okay, do you have some comments? Yes, right here.
I don't know how many, I love Rowena, she's one of my favorite. I think that season 2 is where she really comes along a lot more, and you get to know her a lot more, and she's still a friend of me probably at this point, but she's getting a better relationship with the boys.
Yeah, you can see at that point that she's beginning to...
Because she and Sam kind of have this bond and this shared secret. And
she's like, yeah, maybe they're not quite as bad as I thought. Yes?
I mean, actually, season 10 was when Rowena was introduced, which I love Rowena. So that's a great one of my favorite. But if you want to circle back to 7. There's 2 points that I want to get you on. That actually, for your defense, one, I agree with you in terms of if you rewatch it and straight through, it flows a lot better because season 7 was the only season where they had a lot of breaks as it first aired, excessive breaks in between the new episodes. So it really broke the narrative. That's one reason why I think the season is not looked at very fondly. And another thing in your favor too is I love that the Blacks, how they were Lovecrafty, which circles back to how H.P. Lovecraft will discover what he did, or how he discovered. So I thought it was very awesome with that thing. But a point against season 7, almost no baby.
Almost what?
Almost no baby.
Oh, okay.
That's just,
yeah.
Can't do that.
That's because they had to hide from Leviathan and Sam and Dean. We're killing everybody.
Well, now, folks, it's your turn to get to vote. You don't already have it in your mind. Think about it for 15 seconds, and then I'll just choose 15 because it is a significant number for the show, not because it's on my little box. Same reason, but if you think that the season 6 defense was the best, raise your hand. Oh, you got.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. Hold them up there for a minute so we can count them. We got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Like that sound about right? Okay. Very good. Nice job. Okay, number 7. I got a couple votes. Yeah.
Season 7 is still not my favorite, but your defense was the best because it's hard to defend that season. And you actually made me serious about rewatching it. That's my feeling about season 6. Season 6, I hate. It's the worst season for me. And everything you said, I was like, oh, God damn it, she's right, it's awesome.
Well, sometimes you have to give credit where credit is due. And if you hate the Leviathans because they are gross, it's like, well, maybe they are pretty damn good villains then. If they're, so yeah. Okay. Number 8, season 8. Okay. We've got a couple votes for season 8. What about season 9?
Wait, who did season
Okay, we
9?
got 1, 2, 3, 4. We might have to have a runoff here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Oh, she's got my one.
Okay. And what about season 10? Okay, we've got a few there. So we're gonna, just because I may not be able to count. Now, and there's a reason I'm asking, we want to be exact about this. If you voted for season 6, raise your hand, please. Okay, somebody else help me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Is that right? Or I missed it? I thought you did, okay, good. I was gonna say, I thought I counted 10 the first time. Okay, and if you voted for season 9? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, so, okay. So it was close. Now, now she's getting a little cocky over here, and I gotta tell you why. It's because she won last year. We're very happy for you, Hanako. So congratulations. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for being here, and we do plan to do this again, or I don't know if they do, but I plan to do it. And next year for 11 through 15. I mean, why not, right?
I'm ready for a rematch.
She sure is. But thank you all for being here. We appreciate it very much. If any, I'm not sure exactly how many people we have here, but I think I have enough. If anybody would like, these really a cool little sticker that Gail has made.
They are an original commission from Camadiox, so
if you would like
one of my favorite scenes.
I will be happy to give you one. We appreciate you guys spending your Thursday night with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Did you want
And great comments from you guys too.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for coming.